Now, as of right now, as a 32-year-old investor who's been investing for around 12 or 13 years and in the stock market investing for around 8 years, I currently earn around $91,000 estimated per year in dividends, or around $7,600 as of right now per month. Now, one of the main questions I get asked very frequently is how much money do I have invested in the market, and also how much money does an investor have to invest in the stock market in dividend-paying stocks and ETFs in order to earn, say, $50,000, $90,000, or $100,000 per year in dividends. Now, to answer the first question, I currently have over 7 figures invested, as you can see right here throughout my long-term portfolio and on my dividend tracker that you of course can grab down below. But the main thing I want to talk about and sort of answer in today's video is how much does an investor actually need to invest in the stock market in dividend-paying stocks or ETFs in order to earn, let's say, $90,000 per year in dividends, or even something like $50,000, $25,000 per year. Now, even though there's some sort of simple math involved to figure this out, the answer is also sort of complex when we take everything into consideration. So if you want to see how much you would need to invest in order to earn, let's say, $25,000, $50,000, or $90,000+ per year in dividends invested in different stocks or ETFs, then make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. If you are a dividend investor who wants to level up your portfolio, you need to be tracking your dividend income consistently. And that's why I created the perfect dividend tracker that I've used to scale my dividend income up to all-time highs over the last year. Now, along with this dividend tracker, you're also going to receive my A to Z dividend investing ebook, which shows you how I personally started from $0 several years ago to now where I earn over $7,500 per month in dividends. So if you want this tracker and the ebook, go to the first link down below in my description and grab it today. Now, whenever I do get that question asked to me again, how much does an investor need to invest in the stock market to earn X amount of dollars? Let's say for this video's example, $90,000 per year. I often respond to that question the exact same way and say, well, it depends. And this is because this is 100% the case. First of all, it depends on what you're investing into. Let's say this right here, VU, the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, a great ETF that's offered massive performance historically, and that tracks the S&P 500 index. This ETF, for example, is not going to offer a massive starting dividend yield. It's going to offer much more growth potential because, of course, it tracks the S&P 500. Now, that being said, this ETF does still offer distributions around $1.63, more or less per share per quarter. But because this ETF is not necessarily dividend income focused, it's going to take a massive amount of money invested into something like VU in order to earn, let's say, $90,000 per year. Now, you might be asking me, well, how much exactly would an investor need to invest into something like VU, for example, in order to earn $90,000 per year in dividends? Now, the way we would do this is we look at the most recent dividend payout, which in this case was $1.63. So 163 divided by 3, this is 54 cents more or less per share per month. Now, in order to earn $90,000 more or less per year, that's around $7,600 per month, which means an investor would potentially need to buy around 14,000 shares of VU in order to reach this dividend goal. Now, because VU is over $559 per share, this means that an investor would need to invest a massive amount of money in order to earn $90,000 per year. But it gets sort of more complex than this, so hang on tight, I'm going to explain this very simply. You have to also consider when the investor bought into the underlying ETF and or stock, which would give them either a higher or lower yield on cost. Now, what I mean by this is that, let's say VU, for example, as of right now, is trading at $550 so per share. And again, VU pays around $1.63 more or less per share per quarter. Now, your yield on cost is going to be much higher. Let's say if you bought VU several years ago, let's say you bought the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF VU for, let's just say, $200 per share. Now, your amount invested in your yield on cost is going to be significantly higher, and you're going to be in a position to earn a lot more in dividends for a lot less invested compared to someone that bought into VU today. So that's another confusing aspect about when people ask me how much money would you have to invest in the stock market in dividend paying stocks or companies in order to earn X amount of dollars per year in dividends. Well, again, it depends on what you buy. It also depends on when you bought it. Now, another example of this is that if an investor bought something like SHD, for example, and wanted to earn $90,000 per year based completely off of SHD's dividends. Now, obviously, if you bought into SHD slowly over the years, reinvested the dividends into more shares of it, and also saw multiple dividend increases over the years, this once again is going to put you in a good position potentially because you're going to have a much higher yield on cost than if you bought SHD at all-time highs, let's say today or tomorrow. But still, the fact that SHD only yields around 3.4%, it's going to take several millions of dollars in order to earn $90,000 per year in dividends based off of something like this. But the thing is that there's tons of different ETFs in the market, something like Dividend, for example, which yields almost double than that of SHD, for example, which means in theory for an investor to earn $90,000 per year in income from Dividend, they would potentially only have to invest around half the amount that they invested in SHD, which is about half the amount of that invested into VU. Not to mention if an investor invested solely into something like the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF, JEPQ, something that's much more income focused. This investor is going to see around an 11% 30-day SEC yield, which means that they are going to have a substantially less amount of money invested into something like this in order to earn $90,000 per year in dividends. Now, there's other ETFs that offer even higher distribution rates, something like ZVol, or even something as crazy as the Yield Max Coin Option Income Strategy ETF, CONI, which has a distribution rate of 159%. So the reality is that there's not really a one-size-fits-all, and there's not really a simple way to answer the question, how much does it take in order to earn X amount of dollars per year in dividends? It completely depends on what you invest into. Are you buying into the S&P 500? Are you buying into ultra high yielding option income strategies like this right here? Are you investing into a mix of everything? And not to mention, when in the world did you start investing in these names? Did you buy them at the lowest price possible? Did you buy into them at all-time highs, giving you a much higher yield on cost? Are these different stocks and ETFs, these different investment vehicles, offering dividend growth historically? Are their dividends being cut later on? There are so many different things to take into consideration when it comes to trying to figure out whether or not it's going to take X amount of dollars in order to earn X amount of dollars per year in dividends. So a lot of times investors look at my long-term portfolio and say, this is completely out of reach for the average investor. And I want to tell them that that's absolutely not the case. I, just like any other investor, took my savings as well as all my active income for the most part over the past several years and built a portfolio now with thousands of different shares of different ETFs and stocks, as you can see right here, so which now altogether pay me around $90,000 per year. Now again, along with that, I bought into certain names at very low prices. For example, I bought into Apple stock at $118. It's now around $250, which means my yield on cost is massive. Also different names like Realty Income stock. I bought a ton of my Realty Income stock long ago when the dividend was much lower and saw multiple dividend increases just over the past several years. And also I pad my portfolio with different names like JEPI, JEPQ, ZIVB, and others that offer a ton of income potential compared to that of investing in the S&P 500 or something. Now I'm not saying that my strategy is the right strategy for you or the right strategy in general, but I'm just saying that it's very possible to build a portfolio, especially if you're a long-term investor, that can reach massive heights as far as yearly dividend income, and you don't necessarily need to have millions upon millions of dollars to do so. So now that I share with you guys the majority of different stocks, ETFs that I personally have invested in the stock markets in order to earn me $91,000 plus estimated total yearly dividends, and we talked about the fact that it's going to completely depend on what an investor buys, when they buy it, etc., in order for you potentially to earn also a massive amount of dividends per year. I lastly and most importantly want to hear from you guys down below. As far as an investment vehicle, whether it's a single stock and or an ETF, what's your number one favorite position across your portfolio as of right now? Drop the ticker symbol in my comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.